Hi, Park Life team members. I just wanted to create a video for you all that you can use as a resource during your season as well as beforehand regarding all the questions you might have about documents that you fill out for your worship services, as well as other documentation that will just inform us of how you all are doing as a team during your season, and will give us a good idea just of needs of the ministry, things you all have created and been a part of. Yeah, it'll just help us to also better resource you all during your season. So I'm going to flip between sharing my screen and chatting, and then also my head will kind of move as I'm looking at my notes. So first thing I want to talk about is just your leadership assessment. I notice that folks that do really well with these more administrative tasks, it's easy to tell from their assessment that they will be. So I would encourage you that if you are a team leader and your giftings may not be in organization, or administration, or even like strategic or getting things done, that this might be something you really want to ask for help from your team members in. So I would encourage you to consider your leadership assessment when deciding who is going to help the team leader with different components like this. Big reason we have any type of documentation or paperwork is that that gives some sense of accountability between us at the national office and you all in the park. So we will work hard to make sure that we are responding to every report you all turn in. Another thing is it gives us communication. It allows us an opportunity to communicate with you. It allows you the opportunity to communicate with us. It'll be a great time of reflection for you all as a team, and also just for you individually regarding your season. And then also this will just be a good gauge of how successful you guys have been in ministry, and just new goals you can set, and an ability to look back and reflect on the sweet things that God has done through you this season. So those are big reasons why we have kind of paperwork, whether that be digital or be hard copies. So with that being said, previous seasons, everything has all been paper. This is the first season that we are going to try, actually the winter we did it too, but we're going to try making almost everything digital, which will mean there's less things for you all to mail in. And hopefully it just means it's easier as a team to compile things real quickly. So that being said, most of what we'll cover is digital, but if you decide our internet is so bad we can't do things digital, or you'd rather do hard copy, you can connect with us and I can train you in what that looks like. So during a worship service, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. One, you all are going to take the time to pass a guest book. So you could do this either as people come into the service, there could be a time during a worship service, but whatever happens, this should be getting passed during each service, and it should give you a good idea of attendance. It'll allow you to see who's alumni that might be at their service, different prayer requests, but also I would still tell you, you need to be taking a head count at services, because we will ask for how many team members as well as guests were in attendance of the service. And then lastly, the other main thing you'll see on this first document is that two of you will count the offering after every service. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you all can see this. This first document I'm showing is one that would need to be printed off, or you could have one of us at the national office send it to you. So this is going to be most useful for the counting of things during your actual service. So again, you would take your paper copy and you would write your park and the location within the park that you're at. So in some parks, you will only have one location. You don't have 8 different teams in your park, and so you won't need to fill that out. But each line here represents one worship service. And so the first line you would date, and you would put the place in your park, what time the service was at, and then here is where two of you after the service, after everyone's left, would need to count the offering and total the checks in the cash. And then here is where you would put 2 signatures saying that you verify that that amount's accurate. And lastly, here's where you put the attendance for each service. So you're going to make sure it's the guests as well as the ministry team members that are included in this number. So if you're in a park that only leads one service on a Sunday, you would just fill out one line each week. But if you're at a park that has multiple services, you'll want to make sure each line is for a different service. Again, the digital form we're about to look at will also have all of these parts on it. And so you may just find this useful at your actual worship service, but then to switch everything over to the digital copy so that you're not having to mail this in. Let's see if there's anything else on it. Yeah, so this form, we're saying that each Sunday night, we're going to want the digital form I'm about to show you to be turned in However, the mailing of things will only need to happen every 2 weeks. So we'll talk about that again. The next form I'm going to show you, make sure we got everything. Yeah, we did. All right, the next form I'm going to show you is going to compile worship services as well as other ministry activities, and this is the one we'll ask for each week. So hopefully this is showing up, but this will be found on Google Classroom, and actually both of these documents you can locate on there. This one will be, again, for each team location, and it will, up in the top, it'll end up saying your park that you're in so that you know it's yours, and I believe you will only have access to your park location to make any edits to it. So this is where you're going to list all different types of ministry activity. So I'm going to try and do this as an example. So here it might be Acadia National Park. Each week when you fill this out, you would need a date it. So today's date is 4/21/2020. And then here is where one of you would end up putting your name, and this is just verifying. This is going to go back to verifying the offering and things like that. So we'll put my name here. All right, so this is what the top portion will look like. There's little instructions over here about how often to mail or digitally send us copies of things. This is the part of the form you'll want to pay attention to. So like we already talked about, this yellow section is all about your worship services. And so actually a worship service would end up filling an entire line of information. So here on the left-hand side, you'd put ASMMP worship service, you'd put the date of the event, how many of you all as team members as well as guests were at the service, and then like the other form showed, you then put the location of the service, what time it was at, and how much offering. This would be checks and cash combined. So that's how you would transfer the worship service information over. However, you're going to have other activities you'll want to keep track of during your week. So right here, we've listed some other activities. And just to give you an idea, this might be like a bonfire, a hiking trip. Let's say you do a Bible study. So each week you'd fill out these different events on here. So let's say this happened. We're just going to make up some different dates that are all recent. All right. So let's say at the bonfire, there was 2 of you, but you had 12 coworkers come. So you'd end up putting 14. Like I said, this yellow section is only for worship services, so you wouldn't need to put that. What was Sunday this week? Sunday was the 19th. Uh-oh, they'll be out of order, but it's okay. So right here, the hiking trip, again, you'd count your team members and you'd count the coworkers that came with you. So maybe that was a smaller group hike. And let's say your Bible study, it might just be your team members, but I would also encourage you, you should be inviting coworkers to this. So let's say there are 6 people at that total. And then the worship service, you guys have lots of families come. So 2 of you were leading, but there was 19 people in attendance, so 21. Here's where you need to make sure that you then also put the location. So let's say it's, well, that doesn't work with Acadia. I might be spelling that wrong. The Cadillac Mountain, and it was at 7 p.m. and it was $22 total. So again, make sure over here you're putting your worship service information, and over here is all the other events during the week you all may do. And like I said, each Sunday it's due, and so I will actually end up clearing and transferring all your information on Mondays when I get into the office. This section right here is where you're going to leave some different information for us. So let's say you're running out of guest book sheets and you need more. You would let me know here in this box. But then maybe also there's prayer requests you really want us to pay attention to. This is where you would type those prayer requests to us in the national office. Right here, we talked about this at the conference, but impactful interactions is the idea that you guys are going to have engaging conversations and just situations where you are leaving an impact in the parks. So again, this is going to be a summary, and I would almost ask you and ask your team members each week to summarize like how many impactful interactions you had this week. My guess is that all of you would be having multiple impactful interactions on the job, as you're out exploring, and even at your worship services. So you may start seeing pretty crazy numbers if you're a medium, large, even a small team. This team member story one of you on your team each week is just going to want to share a story of something impactful that took place. This could be something in your own personal life, even in relation to home. It could be something that is a conversation between you and another coworker, or you and another team member. This is the area, I don't know why you can't see it. Oh, well, I don't think you can see it. We'll figure out that. But this is where you would leave a story here for us. This sometimes is where we pull great quotes for different social media, but again, we will ask you if we want to use something like that. All the other information on here, I believe, is just for us at the national office, but I'll show you it real quick. So down here, each Monday when I come into the office after your information has been submitted, I am going to take that information and copy and paste it down here. That way, you're able to fill out the information here again. And so this will be a really easy form, and it's only due every Sunday night after your services. So this should be something super easy that during the week you can keep track of the events that are taking place, and then make sure it's ready for me when I get into the office. And here are the instructions right here. So you could decide that you'd rather mail in all the worship service items, and that is totally fine. Either way, you'll still need to make sure that this is filled out with your other ministry activities that are taking place. With the offering, all the checks can get sent to the national office. However, the cash will have to get turned into a money order. You can do that easily at a grocery store, at a post office, and I think even at banks. And so a money order will be essentially the value of the cash that you give them minus how much it cost you to get the money order. So you can actually use the offering money to purchase that money order. In the very top of the money order, you'll need to tear off, as it is a receipt that you had just had that money order created. But you'll also get a receipt for the purchasing of your money order. That receipt you'll want to send into the office with all your checks, your money order, and any guest book sheets that you have. If you'd rather not send the guest book sheets because you have lots, you are welcome to scan or email those to Elizabeth at admin@acemp.com. Make sure there's nothing else you all need. I think that's it. So hopefully this video is really helpful, as summer is still a couple months away, and I'm sure you guys will have questions about the documentation that's needed. So team leaders, you guys are ultimately responsible for the completion of these forms. However, I would encourage you to have another team member that will help you with this and kind of gather the content during your week. So feel free to reach out to us at the national office if you have any questions.